So, Ritien, good evening. Thank you so much for joining in. We had a very short conversation before the Seed Festival, and I think that at that moment you did mention about your admits, and we were like, you should be making it to the Seed. You could inspire. Your story is definitely inspiring. So here's how the entire, uh, let's say, the entire line is: you've got your GMAT score. You also got an MBA admit at Columbia Business School, and you also got a deferred MBA, right? So massive congratulations. I'm sure you are super happy, but how are you feeling about it? Like this was about a few weeks ago when you got an admit. So how has been the feeling? How are you living through this?
It's amazing because I have always been aiming for an M7 MBA admit, and it's a long time dream come true. Specifically, when you're in your final year of college and something of this scale happen, it's kind of overwhelming. And yeah, it feels amazing. My family is really happy. All of us are in a good mood. And yeah, now on to the next one. I'll be starting off my work experience, and then I'll head for my MBA in a few years.
This
So
happens so
everything works.
This happened so quickly and so naturally. You graduate this year. So tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
yourself. How did this all thing come together, especially when you were still an undergrad? How did you make this work? When did this plan of giving GMAT or applying for an MBA when you were still an undergrad and making it to the center of business in the globe, New York, right? How did that all plan come together? Like, what was the starting point for you?
So I always knew I wanted an MBA at some time. It was like kind of fixated in my mind because I always loved the ideas of scaling businesses or building businesses. It was somewhat there in my mind since first year,
Yeah.
and and so I ventured. I tried to search, okay, what are the best MBA programs in the world or in the country, and then I realized I wanted more of a global exposure. I wanted to go for something where the classroom is very diverse. I can meet people from different backgrounds. So obviously, when I decided to apply for it for an MBA, and then I was like, should I go for a deferred MBA or normal MBA? So in the end, I was like, I have to anyways go for an MBA down the line in my career. So why not apply now? So I think sometime around in my second year, I kind of fixated that deferred MBA is something I should go for. So I really worked hard on my profile throughout my college so that I can do things that I'm passionate about, work on impactful projects, do really good internships, get a good job, and you know have an entire and work a lot on my applications. It was during my second year, I would say I decided to go for this, and it somehow worked out because deferred MBA is a bit selective. So everything was like, I don't know if it will work out or not,
Yeah.
but went with a positive attitude, and then it all happened. So
Deferred MBA is something that doesn't happen, right? You get a chance, and
yeah.
you get a chance after an admit that you get to defer it, right? So let's just start from the very beginning because this is very crucial. I mentioned it earlier as well that especially people who are undergrads, the opportunities are so wide apart, and like so many options are there. But if someone is looking just like what you've done, we can kind of break it down for you what you have done, right? So tell me about yourself as to what was your undergrad, where did you study? And you mentioned in
Sure.
second year something kicked in and you kind of fixated. So what did you do from that point? Did you just focus on GMAT or first get your score, or did you fixate on doing projects? What happened? So just give us a little background there.
So I think the most important thing is, first I think I'll start with myself. So I've done my bachelor's in chemical engineering from Pittsburgh. I've also done a minor in finance. And throughout my college, I was very focused on getting hands-on experience. In fact, to anyone, I would say that if you really want to go for an MBA, focus on what you like and be the best at it. So I was someone who really loves leading organizations. So I had a lot of leadership positions in college. So I was chairing the Chemical Engineering Society. Then
Fun.
I was the head of finances for my entire student union. So I was managing funds of around 10 crores per annum
Oh,
for
wow.
our college festivals and other college activities. So a lot of impactful projects I worked on. Apart from that, I was the first Asian president for the largest student-run finance society in the world. So all these kind of projects that you take up, all these kind of leadership positions that you take up are really critical, not only in your applications, but in your growth as well. So I am someone who believes that we should kind of pursue what we really like. So for me, leading impactful projects, doing some good leadership work was always on the top of my bucket list. So I ended up in such positions. Second thing is your academics. You should have a good CGPA, obviously. That's something that has to be mentioned. Anyways, and the third thing would be having some, volunteer work or social cause that you're working on. So I am very passionate about social causes. So I started a financial literacy campaign across India through my finance organization. So a lot of things I was involved in. So I would really recommend students to, you know, try some social ventures that they're actually passionate about. So I was passionate about financial literacy in India. So all these kind of things kind of add up to your entire profile. And apart from that, it's your internships that you do, what industries you're interested in, what kind of work experience are you looking for now, and then how will an MBA help you switch your career.
Yeah.
So the entire pathway is like, let's say I'm applying for a deferred MBA. So the job that I will take up now, how will that job plus an MBA help me achieve my long-term career? So it's kind of linking your pre-MBA work ex to your post-MBA work ex, and how will you get there? So it's a compilation of everything. But I personally feel GMAT is something that you should focus on towards the end of your third year and knock it out of the way before you enter your final year if you're really passionate about deferred MBA. But firstly, it's who you are, what you want to do, what's your profile, what's your story, and that's something that everyone should focus on.
Yes, I think what you touched based on was very extremely important. One is that if I have to just pick up one of the things you mentioned, that you had this ability to look at a project which is about 10 crores. A number speaks a lot of volume. We convert it, it's about 5 million, 6 million. That's the kind of number you tell it to the college that gets picked up. That, in an undergrad, you're actually dealing with this kind of money. The other thing that kind of stood out, I think, is the fact that you want to do an MBA and you maybe somewhere clear, maybe in finance, right? You don't need to choose your specialization right away. But it's not like you do something else only in life and then you think MBA is a path to do something else itself. Like there should be some kind of a connect between what you're currently doing, because then realistically there is a bit of an association when you speak. Now, these two are the things that I infer from what you said. But what do you think? So we're going to come back and forth with few of the things so that we
Sure.
stick on breaking the points. But what do you think in the scheme of things that stood out the most for the admit that you've got, like from the application point of view, what actually got picked up? And maybe in your, let's say, interview, what were they very much keenly interested in? I'm sure you would have written all of these points, but what got picked up? What
I
would you
think so. My profile was very leadership centric.
say? Right.
So I had a lot of leadership experience in college. This was just a few of them that I mentioned. It's what your USP is, in my opinion.
Right.
Generally, some people are interested in AI and ML, so they have a very research centric profile that they want
Yes.
to integrate with product management. Some kind of people are like that. Like for me, I was more of a person that I wanted to start my own company sometime down the line and create a global impact somewhere and make an everlasting impact on the society by building my own company. This was my story, but
Right.
I'll explain the way my I stood out in my opinion. So my leadership experience, I think, talked about how I like to solve problems, how I like to take initiatives. That was one thing. Second thing, I believe, were my set of internships that I did. So it was across various fields. I worked at Big Fours. I worked at a Fortune 500 energy company.
Wow.
Apart from that, I was working at Geo Cinema, and I was also an investment professional at Asia's only student-led VC firm. So all these collective skills that I gained from diverse set of internships created a solid platform for me to say that that I've explored everything. Now I know what I want to do. So this is what came up. And talking about my career, so I'll be starting as a field engineer at Schlumberger, which
Number.
is one of the world's largest oil and field companies. So, so what my story was that I'm really interested in the energy industry,
Right.
and working at Schlumberger will give me a good experience of this energy industry. Post my MBA, I'll move to strategy and then a chief of staff role at a non-renewable energy company or a renewable energy company working with the CEO, and then I start my own company. So my pre-MBA goals were directly linked to my post-MBA goals. And
Right.
generally, people from the energy sector don't really go for MBAs. And me having an energy background plus strong leadership plus good internships plus a story that I think overall helped me stand out.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the idea, you look at any B school, had if Columbia happened to you, but let's say even Harvard or Wharton, any of these schools, they want this specific clarity in what you intend to do. You're going to be spending that much money. You're putting an effort, right? And you're going to be a part of that diverse college, conglomerate, your cohort, and there are people from different. If you have no idea about what, and you're really waiting for the school to show you, that may not add value. You should come with certain thought, use the college university as a platform to network, and obviously the class schedule, all of that is there, right? And then move forward. that is the clarity, and you've just nailed that. It's so cool to see this happening. Now, I'm sure there were so many things you've taken help of Autry or any other consultant to put all your story together. You did.
Yeah, I did. So I took some myself.
Yeah.
It's kind of important to take some myself because I come from a background where no one has really gone to the US to study.
Right.
So I didn't really know how to go about my application. So I took someone's help. But yeah, it's very important to know that uh, whenever you go through an application, it's a lot of emotions. It's
Right.
a lot of things that are going on. So it's highly recommended you work with someone so that you can kind of work through
Do
it
you see the
together.
pre and the post, let's say, preparation for application? Now you come out so strong and super willed what you want to do. Earlier you had all of those things, but they were all like in places in
Yeah.
let's say, yeah, in solitude. But now when you build it all together and you have like a very strong, solid, concrete story, that's amazing thing to have. And I think that's something that will go on for the next few years until you get done with your MBA. So that's great. Now coming to the GMAT, you took up the GMAT in about the year following. How long did that last? Was there any challenges, especially that you had so many things going on and your curriculum? Did it take long to reach wherever you had to with the GMAT score?
So GMAT is a very different story for me. In fact, I'd like to share this properly because uh, I I was really sure that I wanted to go for a deferred MBA quite soon,
Right.
but wasn't able to prepare properly in my fourth year, first semester, which is post say September 2023. I should
Right.
have started them properly at least, and I was under a lot of work with my college commitments and new leadership positions that I just couldn't at that time. It was my last semester in college, so I just couldn't do it at that. So I gave my first attempt January. It was GMAT Classic,
Right.
and I didn't watch Sandeep sir's video about you should go for focus directly, not classic. I kind of regret it. So I wasted about 1.5 months and I prepared for classic and I didn't get a good score. That was the day I got this score. I gave it on 31st of January, the last day you could give
Last
classic.
week. Yes.
Yeah. So I gave the attempt and I I really flunked. So the day that point in time when I got the score, my verbal was really bad.
Right.
So point was good, but verbal was really bad. And I saw the score after I came out of the exam hall. In fact, I am based out of Delhi. I traveled to Pune to give the test.
Right.
I came out of the exam hall and I still remember that day I was in shock. I was like, April are my deadlines,
Right.
and I still don't have a GMAT score. So that was the day I booked my demo with Rob.
Right.
Uh, that same day in like 30 minutes. And next day I had my demo, and the next day itself I enrolled.
Uh,
After that, I followed the study schedule properly. And this is very important. The reason I shared this was we really need to know if we need help or not.
right.
Sometimes people are able to do it on their own, but I really feel that you should focus on yourself as a person. If you need help, then just go for it. Take help from people who are ready to give help. Sometimes we just feel that we want to do it on our own, but I really feel it's important to know yourself. So I took Top's help, hands down best. Uh, for me, it was so easy because the study material was quite exhaustive.
Right.
And I studied verbal more because for me, that was a huge pain area. I studied quant in sections where I felt I needed more help.
Right.
So it was joint thing. Then I think towards the end of March, I gave another attempt. I got a 635, which
Hmm.
was again not good.
Yeah.
It was equivalent to 690, which is not ideal. Then I gave another test in 16 days. Then I got a 665. So it's 720 equivalent, but again, not ideal. Not the It's the average score you would apply with. As an Indian, you would want at least 20, 30 points lower, but I was so strangled with time that I had to go ahead with it. So for me, it was like in January uh, to say May, I was working on my internship. I had a couple of leadership positions. I was working on the essays. Then I was studying for GMAT. So it was too much of work. So this was the best I could manage in that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is what the
I,
score looked like the attempt with which you gave your you applied as well, right?
yeah.
665. Now, this obviously I want to touch base on a few things because deferred MBA, I know the timelines. How did you manage to
Yeah.
kind of grade this? So 665, there you go with the 95th percentile in quant. Looks like you made like a couple of mistakes here. Verbal, you've got 86th percentile and data insight slightly tanked a bit compared to the others. So what was your if I have to go directly with your preparations, right? Or rather the order of preparation, exam per se, which section did you choose first and which next, and why did you consider in that order?
So I went with quant first, then I gave verbal and then DI. So for me, I felt I wanted to get done with verbal as soon as possible. because I was not very confident with it. And quant I gave first because it made me confident because I knew I'd do well. So I'll tell you about the quant section. I made one mistake. I still don't know what it was, and surprisingly, I took 30 seconds to solve it.
Uh-uh.
So I don't know what mistake happened. Probably something
I,
silly.
I'm
Uh,
sure it must be within the first 12, one of the difficult level.
yeah,
Because that is how the
first
otherwise the score would really go this
90, yeah.
low. Yeah.
Yeah, and my issue came with DI. The thing was, I did all, I think I made one mistake till 14th question,
Mhm.
and then last five I got all wrong.
Was it because
So
of the time?
mm, mostly because I got stuck at this one question and it took up more time than it was needed, and then I had less time for the next questions. I panicked, and it was the end of the exam, and it just messed. Otherwise, I should have had at least a 705, but it's
Yes.
fine. It all
I was speaking to someone yesterday who got a 705, and he was just saying the same thing that, this can happen. This is one of the crucial thing that
uh,
happens in GMAT कि एक question पे stuck हो जाते हो. And the
yeah,
way we try to do it is कि नहीं 2 minutes से ज़्यादा, no, I'll come back again, because
yeah,
generally the last few questions are more easier. That was like
yeah,
a great advice. Had it been
yeah.
that you had taken the test before he did, you would have implemented it, but nevertheless, right? But overall, let's say the entire score was so much. Was there any difficulty? Okay, so what stood out the most in your preparation in terms of the material, content, mocks, doubts, or simply Sandeep sir's way of teaching?
I think Sandeep's way of teaching is obviously the biggest factor because I never knew that I could solve verbal in a way the way he taught.
Right.
So it was very new for me. Octave method in the RC is excellent. I mean, the way you can actually bifurcate things and solve them quickly is really good. Then I think for me, I was really good with critical reasoning from the get-go. So the topic-wise questions for critical reasoning that were provided were really helpful. I could easily solve the type of problems I was weak at with a timer, obviously. And talking about quant, so there was these matrix types of questions where you would say that 80% of the class is males, 20% is female,
Yeah.
and then there are more applications. So I used to be able to solve them, but I used to take more time. So
Right.
he taught this very simple matrix way that made these questions very easier. And in my main test, I got three such questions. So I
Oh,
could solve them very quickly.
right.
So these things really stood out. DI, I feel the way the sectional tests are, they're really helpful. It's in a way that you can test yourself, and they're tougher than the actual GMAT. So if you're able to solve them quickly in the time frame, you'll be able to solve the GMAT. You just know that.
Right.
Quant and DIs, all three of them. The CR marathon, the long marathon that's there for 3 hours that you said, that's also amazing. I did that as well. And most importantly, the 700 to 800 questions.
Right.
I feel in quant, the topics I was weak at, you have about 50, 60 questions to solve. Just sit for a couple of hours, do everything, and then you feel very confident. And I think another thing in your preparation is consistency.
Hmm.
We need to prepare every day. So for me, it was very difficult because I was working on my applications alongside preparing for GMAT because it was the January to April phase. I was a
Right.
bit late. So I was working on my essays, plus my applications, plus my internship, plus two other things. So it got really hectic for me to really, really focus on GMAT more. But I would recommend everyone who is applying at least for effort to get it done till December if your application deadline is in April, so that you have 3, 4 good months to just focus on your essays. But by December, you should have a solid score. So start early. That's
So
all I
this is
would
my
say.
question to you. I know because most of the Deferred MBA application, the last deadline is around March, April, right? Like most of the,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you got your score, earlier score. Did you apply with that score and update the new one, or did you apply with the last score? How did you go about
Yeah.
it?
So I applied with the latest score. I got it in April, like March and April. So
Right.
the deadlines, all of them were in April. So this was not an issue for me. But yeah, it's very late. It's just too risky what I did.
Too risky, but you
I had
had
no option. I had no option but
chance.
to do it. So I was too hell-bent that I have to get this done. So I just went ahead with it. It's not ideal the way I did it, but it's really recommended that you get it done as soon as possible. But I had the score ready before I had any deadline. So I applied with this score itself. As an Indian, you should at least have a 695 or a 685. I was 20 points shy. Probably because of two, three small mistakes here and there, but that's what sometimes makes a difference.
Right.
The reason I could still make it, what I believe, is because I had a very unique profile. I
Stellar
had really
profile,
good
not just
skills,
unique.
and
But it is stellar.
yeah,
It's stellar, surely stellar.
thank you, thank you. So it was a unique blend of my career goals, my background, my life story, plus what I've done in college, what unique projects I worked upon. So that was my way of standing out. GMAT for me was And also, I think one more important thing I would like to share is that these schools really care about your quant score. They don't really care much about your verbal score. The reason is they look at it as a whole. They would really see your total score, but the one breakdown they will really look at is your quant score, because verbal they can still evaluate using your essays. They can see what you've written. Quant is what they really fixate upon because they want their students to be really analytical, not productive. So highly recommended if you can get a full
And
score or
now
at
it is
least
more on, it also extends to DI because then DI also has the quant
yeah, it
segment in
extends
it.
to DI.
Yeah.
Yes, it
So,
does. So
uh,
it's
there's this
quantitative
one
overrating.
This one of these questions I really meaning to ask. Of course, this was not the only school that you might have applied.
Yeah.
And you got in one of the schools and you got it. Was there any school that you didn't get through and you regret and you wished that you got through? What was the school that you were really hoping to get other
So
than Columbia?
my dream school was HPS. I couldn't get to the deferred cohort. Uh, kind of feels bad, but it works out because I think this is where I give another advice to anyone. Is that when you're applying, you should apply to the schools that even if you get selected into one of them, you'll jump in happiness, right? You
Right.
don't want to apply to schools that you yourself don't know if you want to go in. So
Right.
I applied to only M7 schools, out of which like I applied to 5 or 4 of the M7 schools, 5 of them.
Right.
And yeah, finally got an admit from Columbia, happy. It worked out. Uh, and yeah, majorly it's if you go for an M7, there's not a lot of difference. The way they teach, the career outcomes, it's not different at all. It's just a culture fit. But if I talk about my fixation, it was mostly with HPS. And somewhat Wharton also sting a
What
bit.
and
But
financial, yeah. So
because
these
I felt like Columbia and Wharton are very similar to the kind of students they admit.
they're
So
also
you
on
get
the east, yeah, east side. So
yeah,
you will most
yeah,
likely be, in the almost the same segment of work, also workforce,
yeah,
work culture, because then they're not too different. You're on the east side. So
yes.
another thing that if at all you would want to go back and change,
Yeah.
maybe for the admit, because then you would know why were you selected and why were you not selected, right? So what is it that you think you could have added more into your application overall, GMAT or application that could have
I
possibly
think
got you a, let's say, what an admit or a HBS admit.
I think it's so I think I'll add one thing here about the HBS and Wharton admit. It's a bit random. It's like I've seen people who've gotten a Wharton admit but not a Columbia admit. I know such people, and it's another way around as well. So it's very random. That's first. Second is talking about if I would go back, I would really get my GMAT done before. I would have
And increase
done
this.
that around yeah, because then I would have more time to just focus on my essays. That was one thing that really went wrong with me. Third thing I think would be definitely look at uh, more. I think if I could have worked upon a couple of more interesting international projects. So I think international exposure is something that these schools really value. So
Right.
I went for a leadership conference in NUS. That was
Oh,
the only international experience I had, like going out of India. Not leading an international organization, that's separate, but you actually going out of India and exploring or working with people. So this is something that these schools really value. If I
value.
just had, I could do it once. So probably if I had one more opportunity, it would have been better. But yeah, overall, this is it. I really gave a lot of efforts into this. Happy it worked out. And yeah, no regrets
Then
as
so
such.
I'm so proud, and I must tell you, I'm sure if you, I don't know if you got a chance to meet Sandeep at the Seed Festival, but I must tell you, he's extremely proud. Author, of course, is very proud of what you've achieved and what you are about to achieve. I mean, Columbia is slightly a couple of years from now, but there's so much that you could do in the next 1, 2 years to really build, to be in that school, to be able to contribute, to be able to network, and then you're going to be in the center of business. I mean, that's one of the essay topic as well. So it's so much of opportunities, what you intend, what you set to do. I can't wait to see the progress that you make through LinkedIn. We've just connected. Massive congratulations both on the score and your and the admit. There's one little question, last question I would want to ask. Did you manage to watch KTW? Know the world?
Yeah, I did. I haven't completed it, but I did watch it. It was extremely helpful. I think the studies schedule starts with KTW, so it's really important that someone watches it. It really helps you introspect and it helps you understand where you're at and where you want to be. So if I could summarize it in one phrase, it will be what got you here won't get you there. So
Right.
it's It's
It's
it's
super.
something like
You should
yeah,
continue to watch it because this is not just for GMAT. I mean, for people who
yeah,
may consider watching our session again, they might be very intrigued with what is KTW, know the world. It definitely helps in the segment of GMAT. But then from this point, when you are talking with diverse people, you can't just be talking about where you come from. You have to be associating with where do they come from and how do you connect with them. And KTW is just one path for you to, know more information about the world, about their world, about the place you're going into. So continue watching that, and give Sandeep sir a feedback of how it has helped you personally, professionally. He would be,
sure.
he would be really enthralled to hear your feedback. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me.
Just 1 second. I
Yeah,
really wanted to add one last bit, if it's
yeah,
possible. Like last, I feel I missed this out. So I feel when you're applying to these schools, the letters of recommendations are really important.
right.
I think it really contributes a lot for you to get in. I think it's about 40% weightage if I could quantify it.
Okay,
So for any applicants out there, I would just say that build a good connection with the people you work with and do something that has never happened before. Try to create impact or value in any
right.
way you can. That's what gives you good stories to talk about, both in your LORs and in your essays. So that really helps you, differentiate yourself from the large pool of applicants there. That's it. I
Perfect.
wanted to add small
Perfect,
points.
perfect. Obviously, you do have Autry who will be able to emphasize more on that as well. But that's a clear-cut clarity. Just so happy to have you as a student. Thank you for, leveraging. So one last thing, of course, your word of recommendation always matters. This month in August 2024, we are running, giving back to our joint student community. If you're going to be referring anybody for whatever you've gone through in terms of both GMAT and your application, if you're referring somebody, we would like to give back as a referral bonus as well. So please keep in touch. Nabil has been your coordinator. Just let him know if you have anybody to refer to. We'd like to give back and give, there'll be equal, let's say, offers that would be there for both. That's because we've been here for the last 15 years, and referrals are something that has always brought in right kind of students into the right community. So do take that opportunity this month or maybe a couple of months from now. Let us know. Let Nabil know, and he's going to be happy to help you. Okay. Thank you so much. I hope this story would inspire the likes of you, a lot of the undergrad students who are about to graduate this year, next year, or the ones who are starting out right now. You started in first year. So extremely proud of you. Thank you so much for sharing the story, Ritien.
Thank you so much for your time, Natasha.
No
Thanks
problem.
again.
Take care. Bye bye. Have a
Bye
good
bye.
day. Bye.